Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
Great Scott! There's no crying in baseball!
You better hold on tight, Spider Monkey.
This is where the fun begins.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. That's right, we're ranking Superman. Superman is a 2025 American superhero film. It is the first film in the DC universe and a reboot of the Superman film series. In the film, as public trust in him begins to fracture, Superman must reconcile his alien origins with his human upbringing while standing against Lex Luthor's attempts to turn the world against him. Now, I am a huge fan of Superman. I have always liked Superman. Him and Batman are just my favorite superhero to hero. I love them both. They're just Batman because of the games, the Arkham Asylum games. The Arkham games are a big reason why I like Batman. It's also, he is definitely darker. That is one reason I think I tend to like DC stories more than Marvel. They tend to go kind of a darker route, what I would call maybe a more realistic route where it's just not all butterflies and sunshine. There is consequences to their actions. I think that makes for the impact of the movie greater because there actually are things that can go wrong, and I think DC is willing to do that more so than Marvel. I think that's kind of been proven with Marvel's movies over time. They've just become so bland because there really is no consequences. That's why a movie like Infinity War was so good, but then it was kind of disappointing in Endgame when they kind of reversed some of those things. So DC movies have tended to lean more towards a dark side and not be as butterflies and sunshine all the time. So I think I've learned to I just enjoy those better. That's my flavor. I like that more, even though somebody like Superman, I love Superman for being this beacon of hope, right? For being this answer to all problems. He's by far the strongest. It makes him the most interesting. He's always the moral character, the moral judge of what to do, and he always makes the right decision, right? And I really enjoy that. I've always enjoyed that about Superman. So when it came to this movie, I was super excited. I mean, I was excited. I love, if they're gonna produce any sort of Batman movie, any sort of Superman movie, I am ready to go watch it. And honestly, though there are some issues with this movie, I loved it. I thought it was a great movie. Let's get into why with the 10 essential aspects of a movie. First is plot. Does the movie follow a comprehensive story arc and is plausible within the world that has been created? Before I get into the movie, I did want to just say thank you. Thank you for clicking on this video. Thank you for giving me some of your time. A lot of the times when I address, the audience, it's at the end and nobody ever really gets there, and it's okay. I just want to say thank you here and now so that maybe some of you will get this far and see that. Now, that being said, please watch some of my video and just put me in the comment your opinion. I care about the opinion of the audience, right? I mean, my whole point of making this is to make some sort of community. So if there's anything good that you can take away, anything bad that you're taking away from my videos, let me know. I may not do everything, I may not agree, but a lot of this is just me doing it on my own. And when I see things that I feel like could be improved, I try to improve them. But without feedback, that makes it hard. I mean, I want to make a community that where people enjoy watching my videos, but really it gives them an opportunity to speak their mind about something we all love, which is movies, and interact not just with me, but other people, and just have people be safe, feel safe and comfortable commenting and actually have fun out of it. That's what I really want. So please watch my video, jump around. If something's boring, let me know. If you think things need to change, and I'd like to hear your opinion. Doesn't mean I'll always do it, but I will always enjoy hearing people's opinions. So jump around. Thank you for clicking on it and giving me a chance. By the way, I always watch my videos in 2x speed. Not only my videos, but just normal YouTube videos, especially like podcasts and stuff. I watch them in 2x speed. I don't think many people really do that. And in the beginning, it does seem a little weird, but the more you do it, you can process things much faster than you think you can. And eventually, the way people talk normally will just sound really, really slow. If I had to watch my own videos on 1x speed, I would lose my mind. I think they would be way too long and way too slow and boring. So please give that a shot. Let me know what you think. It's something I always do, but I don't know that people necessarily understand or know that you can do that on YouTube, and it's actually you get pretty comfortable with it pretty quick. Anyways, going on to the movie. The plot of this movie is a lot, right? There's a lot going on. Now, there's gonna be several things I critique about this movie because I love the idea of Superman. And I love the idea of this movie, but there's places that I felt like it fell short of being absolutely amazing and just ended up being good. Now, one of those things is just having too much going on. I thought they tried to put way too much into the plot for one movie. And I do understand, I give it grace. It's going to be a little longer because you're establishing this world, right? And we all know Superman, but you have to establish this Superman in this world. So I give you extra time for that, and I don't mind. But the problem is not that it was too long, but that they tried to do too much in the time that they had, and it took away from the moments that could have been amazing and just ended up being good or, you know, somewhat great, right? But they could have been amazing. I think that they just have to take too many plot points and cut them down and get to an end, and it took away time from moments that they should have had more time. And I'll get to the specifics when I get to cinematography, but I just think that this plot just had a little bit too much going on. I'm hoping in the next couple movies that they kind of slow that down and realize that they don't need to do all that much, and that some of those moments really need the time. That being said, you do jump into this in 3 years in of him being Superman, right? This is not an origin story. Personally, I really enjoyed that decision. I like that. To me, it makes you have to pay attention more because you don't get to see how he becomes Superman. Instead, throughout the movie, you're having to piece together his origin, who he is and how he became who he is through little facts that you see on screen, maybe through little conversation pieces, maybe even through his own decisions. I like that. It makes me pay attention to the movie even more because I'm curious what this Superman is, what has and has not happened to him in 3 years. So I really like that decision. I know that some people would probably like an origin, but I didn't mind that it wasn't one. I do think that the twist on the parents in this movie is a good choice as well. Not something that I recall ever seeing for Superman. I believe they did maybe something similar in Smallville, but I never really watched it. I just heard about it. I really like it. I like that idea. It sets up for this moral conflict for Superman where he, you know, defines himself off of the purpose that he believes his parents had for him. So his purpose, you know, for being who he is based on what he believes his parents want him to be. And then he's confronted with this choice of, oh, who I am is not actually who my parents wanted me to be. Now the question is, do I continue operating the way that I have been, which is the way in which my parents wanted me to be, or do I choose to go my own path and be who I have become? I really like that. That's an interesting dynamic for Superman. Again, a little bit of the problem is they don't spend enough time on that. I really wish they would have let that settle in and be more emotional rather than kind of wrapping it up quickly because they have other problems that they need to address and get to. But that little twist I did enjoy. Now, I do think that they underplayed Superman a little bit here. And is it the end of the world? No, I don't mind showing that this young Superman is not, you know, Justice League Captain Superman yet, right? Like, he hasn't been that guy for that long. But in a Superman movie, it's kind of just a personal opinion, but I really like to see a moment where you see, oh, that's the glimpse of him. He's gonna be that guy, because that's always who Superman is. He is the backup plan. If he's gone, we're screwed. That's pretty much the idea of Superman. He is always the guy that they depend on. So he's incredibly powerful and incredibly good at fighting and making great decisions and doing all of these things. But in this movie, he kind of just gets his butt kicked at every turn, and it's okay for him to need help every now and then, right? And most of this movie, I think literally every battle in this movie, he needs help in order to win. And that's okay, but I just wish they would have had at least a moment where you see Superman for Superman. Like, wow, okay, that guy is the man. Like, no one could beat him. You don't really get that moment in this movie. Not that it necessarily needed it, but I do think it really is important to the character of Superman. Now, the last thing I'll address kind of plot-wise is you're gonna have this comparison, right, of Man of Steel and this Superman. And I think Zack Snyder's Man of Steel gets way too much hate for what it is. It is dark, right? But there's a reason for that. And I will always defend that Man of Steel because I love that Superman. And I think it's an interesting story. But the huge thing I want to address is that this is two different kinds of Superman, right? I really enjoy that this Superman is the one that cares about squirrels, right? I love that. That's an essential aspect of Superman that I think is really nice to show, that he cares about every little being and he is very, very careful and loving, right? And I love that. That's something that you don't get in like the Man of Steel Superman. But that's because this Superman chose to be Superman, right? Like he came out and became Superman when he wanted to be. And so he got to choose who he was going to be. And so you get this picturesque kind of Superman that's amazing and friendly. And I love it. I think it's great in this film. It reminds me of just like a very sweeter, nicer Superman. But the Man of Steel Superman is one that did not choose. He didn't get to choose when he became Superman, right? That movie, it was made for him. They came down and made a threat and called him out and said he existed. And he doesn't get all this time to prepare and become who he wants to be or make that decision. He just is. And now he has the responsibility of humanity on his shoulders that he never wanted. And that's what that movie is exploring, is a Superman that didn't necessarily choose to be Superman, but was put in a situation where he had to be. And it's messy. And that's what that movie's supposed to be. This is a Superman that chose to be Superman. And so it's not as messy because he made that decision, and he makes all of these detailed decisions on how much he's going to be loving and caring and careful because he had the time to be able to do that where Man of Steel didn't. And I just kind of wanted to talk about that because I don't think they need to be enemies or compared to each other. They're very, very different, right? They're very different Supermans, and I love them for very different reasonings. This one is so much more lighthearted and fun and caring and just like a nice Superman. And I really, really, really love that. But I love Man of Steel Superman too, and I don't think they need to be pitted against each other. Second is attraction. Does the movie have an interesting premise with a high entertainment value? Of course, it always has an interesting premise, right? It's Superman. He's just one of those pivotal superheroes, right? He's one of the origin superheroes. He will always be interesting. And they do a great job with the energy of this movie. So it does have a great budget with great visuals and great decision making. So it's a great superhero movie. So if you like superheroes, you're gonna like this movie. However, out of all the things I gripe about with this movie, right, most of them are just detail oriented. The things that are either just small decisions that become important when you're talking about amazing, perfect movies, the little things start becoming important, or just personal preference. This right here is my biggest thing that I think was a mistake. And that is the age restriction, right? Superheroes, as much as us adults do love them, what I love the most about them is their potential for children. Kids love the idea of superheroes, but what superheroes do is teach you that lesson in morality. It's great for kids to love superheroes because they always teach you about what the good guy is and what the good guy isn't, what the bad guy is and what the bad guy isn't, right? And it can be very, very simple. And then you have adult movies, like Batman can be very kid-like, and then you have aspects of Batman stories that can be told that are very adult-like that I would never let kids watch, right? And I would say like a Man of Steel Superman, that is so much more of an adult Superman. There's so much heavier themes there that are made for adults that kids aren't going to understand. It's a little bit of a darker theme because it's real and made for adults. This Superman, to me, is so much of a kid-like Superman. The one that is just so joyful and good and bright. It's just, to me, kind of a classical Superman that should be great for children. But then they made this decision to have so much cursing and kind of some inappropriate things in this movie for children that I just didn't love. Like, you didn't need the cussing at all. It makes me question whether I want my kids to watch this movie, right? I mean, sure, you could say it's just words, but it sucks for my kid to learn the F word because they watched a Superman movie. That just doesn't seem right. That shouldn't be the case. And I just don't get that decision because this movie did not need it at all. And then also, right, you have a character in here. You have a woman character that honestly, she does nothing for the movie except have her boobs and be a pretty face. And that's about it. That's all she ever does throughout the entire movie, the few scenes that she's in. And it's just odd. I don't understand these decisions. It's a pointless character that is clearly just there for you to look at her. I don't know. It's weird. It's not even complicated. It's not even like you could argue that she's there for a different reason. She isn't. She literally isn't. It's just, I wish they would have been they would have paid more attention to those decisions and just gotten rid of them and made sure that this is not only an entertaining and fun film for adults, but it is for children as well. I just feel like that was a mistake on their part. Third is theme. What message or truth is a movie trying to convey? Now, you've always got this purpose of Superman, right? This beacon of good and hope. And there's always some nice morality that is in a Superman movie, especially, some of the lighthearted ones. It's just showing this guy that is good and always has to struggle, making the best decisions for people not to get hurt, and he always does that. Now, there is a strong message in here about your choices and like what makes you human, right? Clark's an alien and he has to deal with that and understand, okay, what are my differences and how human am I really? What makes a human? And they touch upon it in this movie about, with the lesson between him finding out what his purpose is with his parents and then having to decide, is that something he wants to continue to do? Is he supposed to be loyal to Kryptonians on Krypton and they sent him here to make more, Kryptonians? Or are the people that he was raised by, humans, and the people he lives with, humans? Is that who he's supposed to be? And forget the fact that he's an alien and want to be a human. It's an interesting dynamic to say choices itself are what make you human. It's about what you decide to be, and your decisions and actions are who you want to be. When you make those actions define who you actually are. It's talked about briefly, but kind of mentioned several times throughout this movie, and I like it. It's an interesting dynamic for Superman because he doesn't really have any association with Kryptonians, except in this movie. There's kind of like that, like he has his cousin, so there is some, like he's not the only Kryptonian, which I'm sure they'll kind of dive into more maybe with Supergirl or the next movie. But with Superman, it's an interesting decision he has to make on how does he define himself and what necessarily is a human. It's a good theme, and it's kind of one that's always present with Superman, and I think they do a good job with it here. I wish they would have spent a little more time on it, but it's still done in a good way. Fourth is dialogue. Is there a real feel to the conversation? I think so. There's good conversations in this film. Like I said, with the dynamic of it being, 3 years in, you're having to process a lot of the characters and figure out their relationships and what's going on. So you're paying attention pretty hard. And they have a lot of good conversations in this film where it doesn't need to be all action. There's plenty of action, but there's also plenty of dialogue to keep you interested in the story and the world that it's in. I really love the apartment scene that they have between Clark and Lois. Now, part of that is, of course, good acting and the chemistry that they have together, but I like that they spent some time with Clark. That's one thing that I feel like gets neglected a lot with Superman, is you're just seeing Superman, but you're not seeing his dilemma as Clark. So I like that they had this, extended scene where you're seeing him as Clark having to deal with human things of being in a relationship. And what does that mean? And the fact that he's kind of this, hopeless romantic. And of course this guy, this great, guy is going to fall really hard whenever he's in a relationship. And the dynamic that they have with each other in their conversation is very interesting because he's, dating a girl that's pretty tough, pretty hard. So she doesn't just give in to him being Superman. And it's a good dynamic. It's a great scene. It makes this Superman movie stand out, right? It gives it a trait that isn't just in every Superman movie. In fact, it's only in this one. I do think that the comedy in here is good. It's not great. The director knows how to do comedy. And so it is funny. I wouldn't reduce it to like a Marvel comedy that's absolutely terrible. There are times that I thought it was funny. It wasn't great, right? There's plenty of moments that it kind of cuts in places that I don't think are great, and not every joke is funny, and there are quite a few in this film, but it is still done well. Fifth is acting. Are the characters convincing? Now I'll start off with my main man, David Cornsweet as Superman. He's amazing, honestly. This is like a huge decision, right? A Superman movie, you gotta have the right Superman. People won't even care about the movie if they don't like Superman himself. And he does a fantastic job. I mean, he looks the part for sure. He's a big guy, handsome, but it's really his attitude that I like the most, because he feels not as stoic. He feels very uniquely energetic and youthful, and I like that about him. Like, Henry Cavill was a stoic Superman and was kind of a imposing Superman, where you're like, oh yeah, this guy is gonna make big decisions, and he's kind of menacing. He's almost a little menacing. This Superman is so friendly, right? He feels young and energetic, and he doesn't feel burdened by good, but rather energized by it. Like, he loves being Superman. He just has this energy about him that's really great and kind of unique on Superman. It makes him feel like his own Superman, and I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I thought he did a fantastic job. Rachel Brosnahan as Lois. Oh, I didn't say that right. Anyways, I think she's good. She's good with a strong character. This is a different kind of Lois. She's definitely more, she's independent, she's strong, she really is a good counter to Superman, because she doesn't need Superman. She's not impressed by him being Superman. She challenges him, and I think that's obviously, it's nice because it makes it obvious to why Superman would like her, because she's not gonna treat him the same way every other woman would treat Superman, because she's very about herself and about her own integrity and success. And I really like that. I thought they had great chemistry together as actors, and their scenes together were convincing. I liked their relationship dynamic and the way that they portrayed it as actors. Now, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, I love this dude. This dude is one of my favorite actors, and maybe he does get enough credit. I feel like people who know him know that he's great, but he's fantastic. Like, every role he does, he's amazing. Now, to me, he doesn't look like Lex Luthor, and I was worried about that, because I do see Lex Luthor as being more of a bigger guy, you know, a little more wide, a little more broad, a little bit more menacing, right? And Nicholas Hoult is not that guy. He doesn't have that build, though he is fairly tall. He's not like a big menacing guy. So I was concerned that he didn't really have the look that I wanted out of a Lex Luthor. But you give this guy literally 2 minutes of acting, and you're just convinced. You're like, yeah, this guy's amazing. And he is. He's a great Lex Luthor. Fantastic. He plays it really, really well. He's just great at knowing the character that he's supposed to be and just being him. He has fantastic energy with the character. Like, you feel the anger within him, and I don't know, it's just nice because it makes it for an easy, convincing bad guy. He sells this character as being, you know, mean and angry and menacing. He also carries the emotion in this movie for me. I think, like I said, you feel his anger. The movie is kind of just not as serious all the time. It's a pretty just kind of entertaining movie. But then when it has moments for him where he brings it more into a cinematic side, where he's showing you the emotion and kind of the reality to this movie. And he just, I don't know, he just does a great job. And I always enjoy every film that he's in. I'll also talk about Eddie Gathegi as Mr. Terrific. I really like the character, and I think that definitely helps. I didn't know nothing about Mr. Terrific. I hadn't heard about him, hadn't seen him in anything, and this being my exposure to him is honestly really good. He brought a good energy to the character. I feel like he matched what was supposed to be there really, really well, because it is kind of a unique personality in the way that he approaches things. But I liked it. He made it a very likable character, and I don't know if that's necessarily the traits of him as a comic book character, but from this movie, from what I can tell, I liked a lot about it, and I think that's because he brought his acting skills to the table to portray this character in a certain way that was done really well. And I won't go into it, but I want to shout out Nathan Fillion as Green Lantern. I really like this guy. He's just always funny, and he's funny in this movie. He always gets a laugh out of me. I always wish he would have been Nathan Drake in Uncharted rather than, what's his face, freaking Spider-Man. But anyways, I just want to shout him out because he's always funny and always does a good job. 6 is cinematography. Is there a creative use of lighting, setting, and wardrobe to convey emotion? I really loved the color that was present in this movie. It was really just nice to look at. They made it very bright and had a lot of color and a lot of things for you to look at, and I just really enjoyed that. Sometimes they, especially recent DC movies, they're so dark and so just colorless and bleak. And this one had, of course, an attitude of a more bright and nice Superman, and they just brought that to the world by having all of this brightness to the world, and I really enjoyed it. It was a really nice movie to look at and watch. Now, all the suits are kind of classic comic book suits. I didn't love them. There are definitely points where Superman's suit kind of looked stupid to me, and he kind of looked silly wearing the red underwear. It just didn't work all that well all the time. It's not bad enough that I was constantly noticing it looking terrible, but there were moments where I was like, yeah, I didn't love that. I don't love the logo. I don't love the S that much, but again, it doesn't bother me either. It's just personal preference on whether you like it or not. Some of those classical looks, I think most of the time don't look that good, but I don't mind them kind of sticking to a classic look. I can appreciate them doing that. I will say Mr. Terrific did look really cool though with his classical look. I really enjoyed the flying scenes. Now, cinematically, this movie does have moments that are really impressive that I enjoyed. And the flying scenes are so, so cool. Like, you really get the feeling of how fast he is when he's flying. And I like that you kind of follow Superman in this movie. Like, I don't know what it is. I'd have to watch some of the previous Supermans. I feel like they either do a lot of cuts and you just kind of are always with him, or you see him fly away and then cut to him. This movie, you followed him, right? Like he says, hey buddy, eyes up here, and then flies up, but you don't cut to him. You don't look at him and then cut up to him. You see him go up and then you follow him go up. And then when he flies away, you fly with him. Like you see him and you're flying through the clouds and everything. And I really, really enjoyed that. Those were super cool shots that were just unique for Superman, unique for a superhero movie that I thought, I don't know, maybe I'm not paying attention enough to other ones, but it was striking enough that I really enjoyed it. And when I saw it, I just noticed it and loved it and was like, wow, that was a cool shot. I really like what they were doing here. All the fighting is done really, really well. It looks really good. I enjoyed most of the fights. They feel powerful, that all the people fighting feel like they're very, very strong, and they kind of have bigger stakes in this movie. With Superman, you're always going to have that. Like, his problems are not Spider-Man problems, they're not New York City problems. They're usually world problems or close to it. So there's definitely shots that are huge and they look great. Like, there's so much CGI going on, but you don't necessarily notice because it just looks really awesome. And they have quite a few settings in this movie that, they did a good job fleshing out. I did like that they used the Fortress of Solitude, a couple times in this movie. I don't know, I feel like maybe I'm just going off of like Man of Steel, but it basically wasn't present in that movie. And it's kind of sad. I like that he had a home, and I liked seeing that home. I think it's like a cool idea, and it looked nice. It was nice to have all of that whiteness. I don't know, it was just cool. It was cool to see like the setting of the Fortress of Solitude. I'm glad they kind of put it in there. Now, emotion-wise, this is, again, where I had a little bit of problem. They had good emotion in this movie, and it's not that it's bad, but they should have just stayed on it a little bit more. There are moments where the emotion is building up for me, and they're building up this moral decision or conflict going on with Superman that you feel for him and you sympathize with him, but then as soon as you're kind of welling up and you're like, yeah, this is big, and it's kind of hitting you because it's been serious for long enough, it cuts it with a joke or just completely moves on to another thing. And I just thought it was kind of poorly done. Like the emotion was great and they were doing a great job, but then they always cut it, and they cut it with a joke. And it's something that Marvel does quite a bit that I cannot stand. There's never a serious moment. And it's not that they didn't I feel like they never let there be a serious moment. This movie let it be, but just not for long enough. It just gets cut short, right? You have this conflict with Superman and Lex Luthor at the end, and they're going back and forth and he's explaining, I am human, I wake up and I take a step forward and I make mistakes every day, and like I'm just as human as you or anybody else. And Lex Luthor's coming back at him, talking back at him, calling him a clown, explaining why he isn't. And it's a good moment. It's a moment that, to me, you need to let it ride. Let the anger ride and let us see more into these characters. But then the dog comes in. And I like the dog in this movie. And it's nice to have him because he's never been in any other movies that I'm aware of. And he was good comedic humor. But then that just wasn't the moment for him to come in. He just completely cuts it. He cuts this like emotional ending scene that could have been interesting and developed more in the character. But rather, now it's a big joke. And that happens a couple times in this film where things are emotionally happening, but you're trying to also make a joke, right? He's talking to Lois about, hey, he just found out that his parents sent him to control the world, right? And he doesn't know what to think about it. He doesn't know how to define himself. And the whole time they're talking, there's this big fight going on in the background that's supposed to be a joke, right? Like Green Lantern's hitting him with a bat. I don't know, it just didn't make sense to me. It's like, why cut this moment? You have plenty of jokes throughout the movie. Don't cut this moment with a joke. This is a great time to really make this movie amazing because you're balancing both worlds of being an entertaining and funny movie, but having moments of real moral lessons and real connections to life. And you yourself can connect to Superman going through a struggle on how to feel about something going on in his life. I don't know, it's me being picky because to me it brought this movie from, wow, this movie is absolutely amazing and one of the best films, to, okay, it's actually a good movie, but they don't do everything right. I feel like this video is going to be super long, but I'm just super picky and hard on it because I really saw the potential in this movie and I feel like they kind of dropped the ball in certain areas. Seventh is editing. This is all about the pace of the movie. The movie is 2 hours and 10 minutes long. It's definitely long, you feel it. Is it the end of the world? No. It's okay to be 2 hours, right? Like I said, I think it packs a little too much in. I think it could have been like an hour 50, but I'm not that bothered by it being 2 hours and 10 minutes, but I'm conscious of it. Whenever I go to watch this movie, I will know like, hey, this is kind of a long movie because it does feel a little long, but it doesn't feel like it overstayed its welcome and was excessive. Eighth is soundtrack. The soundtrack is honestly great, right? But because it plays off the original Superman theme song, and that's okay. I mean, it's fantastic for a reason. And though it is different, I give it some credit for being different. It's not like Jurassic World where it's just completely taking the Jurassic theme song and adding nothing. It is making it different and adding something, but it is still ripping off the original Superman soundtrack. So that soundtrack is absolutely amazing and will always be remembered, and people know it. It sticks in your head and you will always recognize it. So they're kind of playing off of that, so I can't give them all the credit in the world, but they do still do a good job of the music in this movie being present and feeling important when Superman is being Superman. Ninth is directing. Now I feel the director's in charge of the previous 8 aspects. They're the ones that have to put it all together, give it their stamp of approval, and make a really good movie. Now the director of this movie is James Gunn, and this is his 7th film. The 7 films he has directed so far are Slither, Super, Guardians of the Galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, The Suicide Squad, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and finally, Superman. Now, I have watched The Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy at some point. Don't really remember Guardians of the Galaxy. I remember Suicide Squad being like pleasantly surprised with that movie, being good, really enjoying it. But it does make sense to me. He knows comedy well. He knows superhero movies well, and he knows comedy well. I think all of these movies, at least the popular ones, do have a recognition for being funny. And this movie is no different. He does a good job with the humor, but I can tell, like, okay, I see where the problems lie on the seriousness. And that's just, maybe at the end of the day, people will say, hey, you're complaining too much. And it's just a personal preference that you wanted it to be super serious. And it is. I just think this movie really hit it on so many notes, and that was just the note it was missing, was to have that really well done cinematic emotional pull that it just didn't do. I like him as a director from what I can tell and from what I can remember from the movies that he's made, right? He deserves to be a director. He makes some great decisions. Cinematically, he makes some great decisions that are unique and interesting and fun. I hope in the coming movies, I believe he is directing Supergirl, and I believe he's directing the next Superman movie. I'm hoping that maybe this is like a soft entry and he takes more of a leap in an effort to address the emotional aspect and make it feel more weighted and important in the next coming movies. But he is a great director, and I think he absolutely warrants, standing where he is and having control of these movies. And I look forward to seeing them and seeing what he does with them. 10th is time. Will it stand the test of time? I absolutely think it will. It is a Superman movie, right? Like, pretty much every Superman movie will be remembered in some way because it's Superman. But there are certain ones that will always be remembered as being terrible. This is not one of them. I think it will stand the test of time as being a good movie and will stand on its own two legs as being a unique and interesting Superman. I don't think time will make time will make this movie, I think, a little bit worse, because there's probably aspects of it that are kind of centered in modern culture that as things evolve, it won't be as good because it won't be as funny and make as much sense, because it definitely leans on the comedy side. And I think part of that comedy side will change, and it won't be as funny anymore. So therefore it won't be seen as good of a movie. But I think it will always be a good movie and be remembered as a Superman movie that is worth watching. Now for the review section. Rotten Tomatoes critics gives it an 83. The audience gives it a 90. And IMDb gives it a 70. Even though I say all of these things complaining in some way or being picky, I still think that this movie is a 90. Like, I would stick with that audience rate. It is an A movie. It's just a really good movie. Is it carried a little bit by the fact that it's Superman? Yes. It definitely is carried by that, but it also makes its own mark. Not all Superman movies are good, and this is a good one. It has a good energy to it. It has a good lesson to it, and though there's certain things that I think could have made it in the high 90s, could have made it an amazing movie, it's not. It's just a good movie. It knows what it needs to be, and it does it well. It brings a unique energy to Superman, kind of bringing this wholesome Superman back after a Man of Steel kind of Superman, and it's fun and enjoyable. I will buy this movie and I will watch it several times over again in my life. I really enjoy it. I think it's a solid A kind of movie that had the potential to be A+, but it just didn't capitalize on the emotion, but otherwise does pretty much everything it needs to do to be a fantastic movie. Finally, for the rankings. For the year of 2025 out of 28 total movies on the entertainment side, it is going to be Burst, just above Thunderbolts. Now, I was pleasantly surprised with Thunderbolts, but these movies aren't necessarily on the same level for me here. Superman, bias here, I just love it more. I will go to watch Superman before I go to watch Thunderbolts. Just because it's Superman more than anything, but it's a well done Superman movie, and it just feels bigger and brighter. The tone of it is better than Thunderbolts as far as rewatchability. Thunderbolts definitely dives into a more emotional and deeper part than Superman ever really does. So it's not going to be as easy to rewatch, even though there's plenty of it that is fun and interesting. I think that Superman just does it better and is more fun and entertaining throughout the entire movie and is a little smoother than Thunderbolts is going to be. So I'm just more likely to watch it than Thunderbolts. Now, cinematically, out of 28 total movies, it is going to be Burst above Thunderbolts. Now, this was much harder. Thunderbolts, I think, is a fantastic cinematic movie for its theme. That really surprised me. It has, of course, riding off the Marvel Universe. It has a lot going for it already. And it does some good things with the characters as far as cinematography goes, but really the thing that drove me with that movie was the theme. I really liked that idea that they just went in on this deeper and darker idea that is real about dealing with past trauma and emotion alone, and how bad that can get, and that you shouldn't have to do that alone, that there's plenty of people that go through things that can help you, and that you should, as a group, you're going to be better, and that you should, you know, get that weight off of your chest and help each other. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was just a really, really great message to have for the adults watching that movie. That being said, usually that emotional side, that theme, is really important for me, and I end up weighing it highly. However, Superman, it doesn't emotionally get to that point. I don't think it does as good of a job with its emotion and theme as Thunderbolts, but the other aspects of it are just so much better. Like, I think cinematically the world is better. It feels bigger and more important. I like how bright it is and what they did with the shots. I think some of the cinematic shots of the fighting and following Superman as he's flying, I think all of these things are way above what Thunderbolts was bringing to the table. And the little bit that Thunderbolts is above Superman in the emotion category, I don't think makes up for the rest of the movie not being as well done or as fleshed out and interesting. I think Superman just overall as a big picture brings more to the table for cinematography as an art form. For the decade of the 2020s, out of 65 total movies on the entertainment side, it is going to be second, below The Fall Guy and above Thunderbolts. It's above Thunderbolts for the same reasons as before. Now, I have it below The Fall Guy. This was actually really hard for me. And The Fall Guy is such an interesting, weird film for me to judge, because it's a movie that completely surprised me, which always helps. When I watched it in the theater, it was super entertaining, very funny. Ryan Gosling just took me by surprise and was just so entertaining and funny. And I just enjoyed the premise of the movie quite a bit. It's a movie that I keep thinking I want to lower down on the list and that it really shouldn't be number one. But when I think about it, it just is. It is number one. It's just, for the decade of the 2020s, I just don't think there's that many well done entertainment movies, and I think this is one of them. It's just entertaining. It knows what to do with its comedy, and following Ryan Gosling, he just carries it and does a really good job. Now, I had a hard time putting Superman below it, thinking, really, would I watch The Fall Guy over Superman? But honestly, I would. I think it's an easier digest. It's just more fun. I think it knows what it needs to do and just does it. And though Superman does do that in some ways, I just don't think it's as effective as The Fall Guy. Now, cinematically, out of 65 total movies, it is going to be second. Again, it is below The Wild Robot and above Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, I have it below The Wild Robot, and a lot of that has to do with the emotion side, right? So Thunderbolts, everything else about, even though Thunderbolts was emotionally more impactful, everything else about Superman brought it above it. Now here, The Wild Robot can compete. A lot of this Superman movie, though it has real actors, it's a lot of CGI, a lot of fake going on. Honestly, not necessarily super comparable to animation, but kind of close. There's a lot of fake going on. So they're kind of comparable. The animation with The Wild Robot was really, really well done. I love the artistic style to it, but it had all of these great things going for it. But then what really puts The Wild Robot ahead for me is that emotional side. It always hits me, and it's really well done, because in The Wild Robot, it'll also change. The part of the movie, the lesson that you're feeling and makes you feel emotion is about parenting. And so as I get older and as I become a parent and hit different stages of parenting, this movie will hit me different and in a different way, right? Like, it hits me now as a child thinking about my parents, but then eventually it'll hit me for my child and being the parent. And I just think that's super cool, as it just brings so much to cinematography as an art form, whether it's the animation and style or the message that it's bringing. It's such a good package together that if Superman had touched on its emotion better and really hit home, then I would put it above, but it just didn't. And I think The Wild Robot's a better package overall because of that. Now, I do have it above Spider-Man No Way Home, and that's because Spider-Man No Way Home's last half of the movie, that would compete, and we'd have a real competition here, but the fact is, it has a first half, and that first half isn't nearly as good. And so, as much as I can talk about some of the emotions, some of the things, the truth is Superman overall, whether it was better or worse in some ways, it's not enough to make up for the fact that Superman is a better package. Overall, the entire movie is the same and good in a lot of ways and bad in the same ways, but Spider-Man No Way Home just is really not good at all for the first half, and the second half carries it so much. So pretty easily above Spider-Man No Way Home in that sense. Now, all time, out of 80 total movies on the entertainment side, it is going to be 8th, just below The Fall Guy and above A Million Ways to Die in the West. Though A Million Ways to Die in the West is more entertaining and was made for that, it's just a specific kind of entertainment, right? I just don't think that that comedy necessarily hits for everybody. And though I am judging it as how much I want to rewatch it, I also try to consider if I had to watch it with a group of people, what would I prefer? Which would I rather put on? And I would rather put on Superman because it is entertaining. And I just think a little bit more entertaining to the general audience than A Million Ways to Die in the West. That is a very specific comedy, and though it hits well and I think it's done well, it won't necessarily be that way for everybody. Now, cinematically, out of 80 total movies, on the cinematic side, okay, all time out of 80 movies on the cinematic side is going to be 3rd, just below The Wild Robot and above Spider-Man No Way Home. It's there for the exact same reasons as before. Wow, this is going to be probably by far my longest video. There's just so much to say, right? It's Superman. I love Superman, but it's just a big world with a lot going on and so many expectations and things that I liked and didn't like. I just had so much to say. Probably talked too much, probably repeated things too many times, but oh well, it is what it is. That's what I like about it, is being able to talk about it. I really did enjoy this movie, and as much as I picked on it, it's a great movie. It's fun. This movie felt like it deserved to be in theaters, and that's something that is just kind of rare nowadays. A lot of movies just feel like, yeah, it could have been streaming, and that's just the way it is. This movie was like, yeah, it's kind of a crime if you didn't see it in the theater, because it's just that big of a movie. It feels like a big movie, and it is, and it's good, and they do a great job with it. I just have my picky little opinions. Make sure you comment down below your opinions on it. Where was I right? Where was I wrong? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Some people seem to love it. Some people seem to hate it. I can understand some of the hates, but honestly, I just think it's a great movie, and it could have been amazing, but it really is just great. But comment down below your opinion. That's the whole reason I started this, was I wanted to associate, and make a community where I could talk with people. And though I'm putting my opinion out there, I care about your opinion. I want to know what you think, where you think I'm right and wrong. That's the fun of the conversation, but I just enjoy interacting. Put down a movie if you want me to review it. I'm going through my list of everyone who's ever commented a movie, and I'm rating those movies. So if you want to see me do one, then put one down below. But otherwise, I'm Mr. Majoritarian. Stay classy, San Diego.